Welcome to this video. We're going to be looking at basics of layers today. So you can see I've got 4 different layers here, and they're all pretty straightforward how I've labeled them. You'll notice that because the yellow dodecagon is at the top, it is above and the green star, that is above the blue circle, above the red quadrilateral. If I wanted to reverse the order of those, though, we can shift the bottom one and then shift the top one. It's going to select all of them. We can do a cut and a paste, and you'll notice now they're in the reverse order. So if you want to reverse the order of the layer stack, you simply cut and paste with Control X and Control V. So that is one way you could do that. If you wanted to select the layers, we could use the keypad. So if I press 1 on the keypad, press 4 on the keypad, 3, 2, and there we go. If I'm in layer 2 here and I want to select layers 1, 3, and 4, I can right click and invert selection. That will select the inversion of those layers. Okay, so you can see now I've adjusted the length of the layers on the timeline here. So say I want to move this layer to this position. All I have to do is press the left square bracket, and that's going to make the starting point that particular layer. If I want to do the converse of that, I just do the right square bracket, and you can see it will do the converse. If I want to move it back to the beginning, I can press Alt and Home, and that will put it back at the beginning. If I want to move it to the end, Alt and End. And if I want to be more precise with my edits, I could do Alt and Page down. It's going to move it, and then if I add Shift into that, it's going to go in bigger steps. And again with Page Up, Shift and Page Up. Okay, so sometimes you're going to have like a bunch of different stuff open, and it may be convenient just to focus on a single layer. So we can select this red quadrilateral layer and press X. And what that's going to do is going to put that to the top, and then we'll be able to see all the information with regards to that. So one final thing with regards to the square brackets, if we just do Control with the right square bracket, going to move it up. Could we do Control Shift with the right square bracket, it's going to move it to the top. So that's one way that you can start to order the layers in the stack in a convenient way. So the align panel is pretty cool, and you can see that if we have an object selected, we can align it to the left, we can align it to the middle, we can align it to the right or the top or the bottom, and in this way, of course, you could go all around the corners, right, like that. And you can see we're aligning layers to the composition. So that's one way that you could do that. Now let's take a look at the situation where we have 2 items selected. So if we align to the left in this situation, we're going to go, it's going to take the blue circle here as the reference point. If we align to the right, so essentially it's looking at when it says right, it's saying what is the edge that is furthest to the right already, then bring the other objects which are there to that position. So again, going to the right there. If we go to the left, blue circle's to the left, so we're going to need to move the red one over. So that is how that works. And if we do top, the blue circle is going to go over the red. You can see aligning to the top edge because that is the furthest edge. And when we do the align horizontal, it's going to essentially it's going to essentially try and find a line going, a vertical line going directly through the center of both objects. And it's going to move each of them half the distance that it needs to go, right? So you can see that both items moved, both these, just look at that one more time. So you can see the red square goes over to the left, so the red rectangle goes over to the left, and the blue circle goes over to the right. So it's essentially averaging out those points. Okay, so say we want to, let's try and align now. Let's actually use the other thing here, this dodecagon, and we'll put this one in the bottom, and we'll put this guy in the top. So this is probably something you might want to do. Like, how do we get this circle right in the middle of these 2 items? Okay, so now we have these 3 items selected. You can see the distribute panel opens up. And what we probably want to do is distribute them vertically. So we can go to the left. So if we do an align to the left, this circle is going into place on the left-hand side. Now we want to distribute vertically. And there you can see, then it goes into the middle section. So then you can have all these 3 items distributed vertically like that. Let's try on the bottom as well, just to see how that might work. So we're going to select 3 to unlock the panel there. We're going to need to align the blue circle to the bottom. So it's going to look at the bottom edge, which is basically the same with the yellow and the red there. So we'll go to the bottom on that one. And then we want to distribute horizontally this time. So we want this blue circle to go into the middle section. Okay, let's try all 4 of them, I guess, at this point. So we'll put this guy maybe on the left at the top. So what we could do is if we want to try and maybe align them all along this line and we want to distribute these 4 shapes across the whole thing, we'll select all of these 3 shapes. We want them all to move up. You can see this is aligning to selection, but we don't want that. So that's just essentially taking the top edge. So we want to actually align that to the composition. And then we could do the top, and then it will move up. Then we could select our 4th shape, and then we want to distribute them equally on the horizontal plane there. So you can see we've got this clip here, which is a deer. And what I might try and do is, say we wanted to trim when the deer turns here, and we want this point to line up with the beginning here at 1 second. So one way we could do that is we just hold down the Alt key and press the left square bracket, and then we can position our here, and then if we just press the left square bracket here, you can see that that's synchronized it exactly where we want it. So that's one way that you could do it. You can also do it with the layer panel. You may also notice that we've got this section is now missing. The other way we could do it is to use the layer panel here. So if we look at the actual clip, you can see the input here is going to be 1 second. So we can do an input of 1 second here. You notice that doesn't change it in the layer panel. So at this point, nothing is happening. So we need to find the spot now in using the layer panel where the deer is going to turn. And that is about here, right? So if we do this as the input, you'll notice that we keep the same place in the timeline, but now when we actually play the video, again, we're going to have nothing at the beginning and it's turning at exactly the right time. We can change the output to be about there. Let me make it a bit smaller so we can actually see what's going on. Even smaller. So you can see as we do this, the input point, so even though the clip is much shorter now, we're going to make it much shorter. Let's just run it from timeline. It's running exactly the same spot. So you can see the advantage here using the layer panel. It means that I can essentially, we can really start to, you know, I can make this an input point. We get a bit more here. If I wanted to maybe move the clip a bit down, it would be pretty straightforward just to go here. So you know what, I want this to be the endpoint. And again, we're going to start right in line with this. I want it a bit further down, maybe over here. And at no point do we have to worry that it's not going to start at exactly the same point as that red square starts. So here we've got a bunch of different pictures, and we're just going to select them all, and we want to create new compositions. A couple of ways we could do it. We could drag it onto the button here. So we could do it like that. Also right click, new comp from selection. Either way you do it is going to create the new composition from selection panel, and you can choose which one you want to. So for instance, options, use dimensions, so we can choose which picture we want to use, how long the still is going to last. But what we're focusing is the sequence layers section. So if you just do without an overlap, what's going to happen is you're just going to get the pictures all in a row for 2 seconds long. And you see we're going to go 2 seconds long on the picture. Now they're all different sizes, so it's not quite exactly how you would want. But the other way to do it though is you can also do the overlap section. And this is actually a pretty convenient way, especially if you're doing like photo slideshows and stuff like that. You can do the overlap. So you do overlap. Now if the pictures are all different sizes, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that we're just going to put it on the rafflesia. So when you look at the overlap here, you basically get a choice. Dissolve front layer means all your images or video are the same size. Otherwise, you want to use different sizes. So this is normally you probably want to use this, and the reason for that, you can see how they're all going into each other. So let's just look at what actually happens with the opacity levels. So here, this is a pretty good transition. You can see the opacity will change on both. So essentially, if you do front and back, you're going to get both those 4. Otherwise, you only get the 2 on the front layer here, the front as it goes down. It will just dissolve into the layer below, right? All right, so here we have a 1080p comp. Let's so we're going to add this guy. We'll just add like various clips here, right? And then what we can do is we can trim them. So we'll just go to about 2 seconds here, press Alt and the right. So then we can trim them. So we'll select them all, press Alt and the right arrow there, and then we can do a keyframe assistant of sequence layers here. Cross dissolve front and back layers. Yep, that's fine. And so we can take a look. So you can see, again, not exactly the right sizes here, but that is another way that you could also do it. And again, it's going to do exactly the same stuff with the transitions. Okay, so what you could do also is, say we wanted to do something with these 2 layers here to make this layer look a little bit better. We probably don't want to. We don't necessarily need to see. We don't necessarily need to see this layer and this layer, right? So what you can do is there's this button here called Shy Layers. So if you just press this button, you can see the hat sort of goes down or whatever. Then we press this button, which corresponds, and then they disappear. So even though the actual thing still looks exactly the same, you actually can't see those layers. So that lets us focus. So for instance, we may want to say, well, you know what? I probably want to. I don't even want to see this thing. I want to just make this a bit better. So let's go into this. We could change the scale. And then for instance, we could do like, it obviously needs to be smaller, right? But maybe not that small. Or something like that. It's like, yeah, we want to make an animation with this red rectangle going across and then going back, but we want it to be behind and in front of the blue circle. And that is when splitting layers will come into its own. Okay, so let's solo the blue circle for now. And then we're going to go through like a bunch of stuff that we've looked at previously. So we're going to center the circle in the middle there. And then what we want to do is we're going to change the scale of it. So we'll go from 100 to 200. And then just because we don't want it to be a boring animation, we can just do our other stuff as well, which is going to be our wiggler. So frequency 4 and 25. We create a bunch of keyframes to give a kind of like a more interesting animation. Okay, and that's all we really want to do with that. So that is good. Now we want to work how we're going to make the rectangle work. So let's solo this one instead. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a motion sketch just to get the animation that we want here. So let us do that. So we'll get the motion sketch, and it's only 5 seconds. So what essentially we want to do is make it go from left to right. At about the 2.5 second mark, we're going to want it to just stop at the right, and then that's going to be when we split the layers. So we will do that. Okay, so we're going to just go from left to right. Maybe a bit quick, but we obviously do a few things. So we take a look what's happening. It's just going to go from left to right. So obviously there's many ways to improve what happens here. And the first way is to go for the smoother tool, and smoother of 5. So we look at the position keyframes. You can see that's going to create something a bit smoother. And now we're going to make sure our speed is constant, and the way we do that is by doing the rove across time. So you can do it like that. There's different ways that you could potentially do that, but this gives you that constant speed. Okay, so that's doing what we want now. So what we need to do is now use the split layers function. Okay, so if we take a look at both of the keyframes now, you can see what's going to happen. It's going behind, and then it carries on going behind. So this is a point where we might want to, I haven't done exactly, it's not too far off though. So this is the spot, right, where we might want to split our red quadrilateral layer. And to do so is actually pretty straightforward. We can just press Control Shift and D. What that does is it duplicates the layer. And so from this point on, we want it to be in front. So all we have to do is just drag this layer up. And that is basically it. So you see it goes behind and in front. So until next time, thanks for watching.